The camera light glowed red, and the chat was already moving so fast it blurred into a wall of usernames and emojis. Tasha K leaned back in her chair, one hand on a thick, sealed manila envelope, the other wrapped around a wine glass filled to the brim with something deep and red. Her voice was low, steady, almost dangerous as she said, This right here? This is the end of the Frost fairy tale. This is the proof he prayed would never see the light of day. The internet didn't wait for her to say more. Hashtags popped up within seconds. Hashtag FrostDNA. Hashtag ProveItKirk. Hashtag the truth is in the file. Every gossip blog, every fan page, every podcast producer suddenly cleared their evening. If Tasha K was going live with that envelope, it meant someone's world was about to burn across town. Rasheeda wasn't watching. Not yet. She was sitting in her lawyer's office, arms folded, back straight, listening as the woman in front of her slid a court document across the desk. It's been approved, the lawyer said, tapping the paper. Court-mandated paternity test for Kennedy, Washington. Results will be admitted into your divorce case. Rasheeda glanced at the signature at the bottom, her face unreadable. She'd fought for this for months, knowing that if the truth came out, it would change everything, not just for her marriage, but for her brand, her businesses, and the story she'd spent years letting the world believe. Kirk was less calm. When his lawyer called to confirm the court's decision, his first words weren't about the baby, they were about optics. I'm not walking into no clinic with cameras outside, he snapped. We gotta find a back way. Something private. But privacy wasn't an option anymore. Not when the paperwork made it official. He had 30 days to appear for the test, and if he didn't, the court could rule against him by default. Jasmine didn't answer her phone at first. When the process server finally caught her outside her apartment, she looked like she'd just woken up, hair in a messy bun, hoodie pulled tight, eyes darting to the corner where a man with a camera stood filming from across the street. She signed the acknowledgement form without reading it, shoving it back into the server's hands and muttering, I'm not doing this for y'all. I'm doing this for me. But even she didn't sound convinced. By nightfall, the story had already leaked. TMZ had the headline. Kirk Frost, Jasmine Washington ordered to take paternity test for alleged secret baby. Fans went wild in the comments. We all know it's his. She wouldn't hide the baby if it wasn't. Rasheeda better drag him for every penny. The noise was deafening, and Tasha K was happy to feed it. She didn't reveal the results, not yet, but she waved the envelope toward the camera like a fisherman taunting a shark. Y'all not ready for what's in here, she said, smirking. And for the record? Kirk ain't the only one I've been talking to. The morning of the appointment, the air outside the clinic felt heavy, charged. 2 black SUVs pulled up on opposite sides of the building. Out of one stepped Kirk, head down, hoodie pulled low, sunglasses hiding half his face. Out of the other stepped Jasmine, in an oversized coat, her hair tucked under a baseball cap. They didn't look at each other. Didn't speak. Security walked them in through separate entrances. Inside, the nurse moved quickly, professional, pretending not to notice the tension thick enough to choke on. Cheek swabs. Paperwork. Sealed evidence bags. In and out in under 20 minutes, but privacy was a myth. An hour later, grainy stills from the clinic security cameras appeared on Instagram. A side-by-side of Kirk and Jasmine, timestamped, location tagged. Fans picked apart their body language like it was game tape. Why they look guilty? Why is she crying? Why is he holding his phone like that? By the time Rasheeda saw the pictures, she was back at her bistro, pretending to focus on menu revisions while her phone lit up with texts. Miss Charlene had already called twice. Friends were sending links to blog posts. She scrolled through them without reacting, her thumb moving mechanically, her face a perfect mask. But when she put the phone down, her nails tapped the countertop in a slow, deliberate rhythm. She wasn't angry. Not yet. She was waiting. That night, Tasha K went live again. This time, she didn't drink. She didn't smirk. She just leaned forward and said, they think because the results aren't public yet, they can control the story. They think they can spin this like it's nothing. But when this envelope opens, the game is over. And for the record, there might be another baby. Another test. Another truth waiting to come out. The chat exploded. People begged her to spill it now. Others accused her of dragging it for views. But the damage was already done. The city knew the test was real. The court knew the results were coming. And for the first time in a long time, Kirk didn't have a move to play that didn't end with him losing something. Outside, in the dark, someone sat in a car across from the clinic, watching the empty parking lot, camera in hand. They weren't waiting for Kirk or Jasmine. They were waiting for the delivery van from the lab. Because if they could get their hands on those results before anyone else, the whole world could see the truth before the judge ever did. The city moved differently in the days after the clinic visit. It was like everyone knew a storm was sitting just off the coast, and all they could do was wait for it to hit. Rasheeda stayed off social media completely, not because she didn't have something to say, but because she knew the value of silence. Every second she stayed quiet, the speculation grew. Every photo of her at the bistro without a wedding ring made the blogs. Every tagged post from customers praising her new energy was reposted by fan accounts with captions like, "She knows something we don't." She let the internet do the talking while she focused on her lawyer's strategy. The court date was set. The results would be delivered under seal to the judge. And when that envelope was opened in front of the court, there would be no walking it back. Kirk, on the other hand, couldn't handle the quiet. He tried to control the narrative with a surprise podcast appearance, booking himself as its special guest on a mid-tier urban culture show. For the first 20 minutes, he talked about his music, his businesses, and the misrepresentation of his marriage in the media. But then the host asked the one question everyone was waiting for, "Did you father Jasmine's new baby?" Kirk smirked, leaned back, and said, "Man, people say a lot of things. Doesn't mean they true." The clip went viral within hours, not because of what he said, but because of how he said it. Fans slowed the footage down, zoomed in on his hands tapping the armrest, his eyes shifting when the baby's name came up. "He lying," the comments read. "Look at his face. That's the face of a man who knows he's caught." Jasmine had gone even deeper underground. No posts, no stories, no comments. But it didn't matter, because the internet filled the silence for her. One grainy video from a parking lot, her standing next to her car, shoulders slumped, wiping her eyes, was enough to feed 100 TikTok conspiracy threads. Some swore she'd just come from meeting with her lawyer. Others said she was breaking down because the test didn't go her way. It didn't help when an anonymous account claiming to be close to the situation started dropping cryptic tweets. She thought he'd pick her this time. The truth hurts more when you prayed for the lie. Tasha K was loving every second of it. She went live in a dark hoodie, no makeup, hair pulled back, looking like someone in the middle of an undercover sting. "Y'all really think this story is just about one baby," she said, voice sharp. "You really think Kirk got sloppy just once?" She tapped the table in front of her, the sound echoing through her mic. "I got messages. I got names. And I got proof that Jasmine wasn't the only one in that clinic this month. Let that sink in." The chat went into overdrive. Bloggers scrambled to DM her, hoping for an exclusive. But she didn't give details. Not yet. The day before the court hearing, the tension in Atlanta was electric. Paparazzi camped outside the courthouse steps like it was an award show. News vans circled the block. Inside the Frost Bistro, Rasheeda stood behind the counter, calmly signing invoices while her manager nervously refreshed Twitter on a tablet. "They're saying the line outside's already around the corner," the manager whispered. Rasheeda didn't look up. "Good," she said. "Let them wait." That afternoon, Kirk was spotted outside his lawyer's office, head down, phone pressed to his ear. A reporter yelled, "Are you ready for tomorrow?" He didn't answer, but the tension in his jaw was caught in high definition. Across town, Jasmine sat in the passenger seat of a silver SUV, her sister driving, her eyes fixed on something far away. When the car stopped at a red light, a bystander snapped a photo. No makeup. No smile. Just a woman bracing for impact. As the sun set, Tasha K went live one last time before the hearing. No envelope this time, just her face filling the screen. "I'm not dropping the results tonight," she said, "because tomorrow, the court's gonna do it for me. But what I am gonna tell you is this, when that judge reads those numbers, we're all gonna see the same thing. And the only question after that will be, what happens to the man who's been lying to everybody?" She paused, letting the chat go wild, then leaned closer. "And for those of you who've been following the bigger picture, this ain't the last DNA test. Not even close." That night, Miss Charlene stepped out of a black sedan in front of the courthouse for a pre-hearing meeting with Rasheeda's legal team. Cameras flashed as she turned to one of the photographers and said, "DNA don't lie, but men do. And tomorrow? We gon' see which one wins." Her words lit up social media, turning into the night's biggest meme. People posted it over old clips of Kirk denying his first scandal. They posted it next to photos of Jasmine at her first reunion. They posted it with countdown clocks for the next morning. The city wasn't sleeping. The bloggers weren't sleeping. And somewhere, in a locked office, a single sealed envelope sat in the judge's file, waiting to change everything the second it was opened. The morning of the hearing felt like the air itself was holding its breath. Outside the courthouse, the crowd had swelled to the point that the police set up barricades. Every step on the concrete was echoed by the clicking of cameras, every flash freezing the tension in sharp bursts of light. Rasheeda arrived first, dressed in an all-black suit that fit her like armor, her hair pulled into a sleek bun, her face unreadable. She didn't wave. She didn't smile. She walked straight up the courthouse steps with her lawyer beside her, eyes fixed on the double doors ahead. Behind her, Miss Charlene followed, clutching her purse like it was a weapon, pausing just long enough to glare at the cluster of reporters shouting questions about Kirk. He came next. No entourage, no sunglasses, no swagger. Just a wrinkled navy suit, a tie that wasn't knotted quite right, and the kind of slump in his shoulders that cameras don't usually catch. When one reporter yelled, "Do you already know the results?" Kirk just kept walking, his lips pressed tight. A few minutes later, Jasmine emerged from a black SUV, her sister holding her arm. She wore a long tan coat and dark glasses, but the cameras still caught the twitch in her jaw, the way her hands fidgeted with the strap of her purse. Inside, the courtroom buzzed like a hive. Lawyers shuffled papers. The judge's clerk arranged files at the bench. In the gallery, bloggers, podcasters, and tabloid reporters filled the rows, whispering and tapping at their phones. The bailiff called the room to order as the judge took his seat, his face a mask of practiced neutrality. "We are here to address the results of a paternity test in the matter of Kennedy, Washington," he began, his voice carrying through the room. "Both parties are present. The results have been received and will be read into the record." The clerk handed him a sealed envelope. For a moment, the only sound was the crisp tear of paper as the judge slid a letter out and adjusted his glasses. His eyes scanned the page once, twice. Then he looked up. "The results indicate a 99.9% probability that Mr. Kirk Frost is the biological father of the child in question." It was like the air got punched out of the room. Gasps. Murmurs. A single curse word from somewhere in the back. Jasmine closed her eyes, her lips trembling as if she'd been holding something in. For weeks. Kirk stared straight ahead, his jaw tight, not moving, not breathing. Rasheeda didn't flinch. She sat perfectly still, her hands folded in her lap, her gaze locked on the judge like she'd been expecting this all along. The judge continued, detailing how the results would impact the pending divorce, custody agreements, and financial obligations. But the room wasn't listening to the fine print. All they heard was that one sentence, 99.9%, and all they saw was the man who had denied it for months. When the hearing adjourned, Rasheeda stood, gathered her papers, and walked out without looking at Kirk or Jasmine. Miss Charlene followed. Her voice low but sharp as she told a reporter, "One baby confirmed, but I'm hearing there's another one coming. Y'all might want to stick around." On the courthouse steps, Tasha K was waiting, her phone in hand, live stream already rolling. "Well, there you have it, folks," she said, her voice carrying over the noise of the crowd. "Zamanlit." The woman hid. And the queen got her truth. She glanced at the camera, eyes glittering. "Oh, and since y'all love an exclusive? Let me just say this, another woman has already reached out to me about another child, and let's just say, I'm getting her booked for a DNA test too. Kirk, your calendar about to be busy." The chat on her live exploded into chaos, laughing emojis, shocked faces, fire emojis flooding the feed. Back in her SUV, Jasmine sat in silence, staring out the window as her phone buzzed with notifications she didn't dare open. She posted a single story hours later, a photo of Kennedy's hand clutching hers, captioned, "At least now we all know." The comments split instantly, half calling her a victim, half calling her a willing accomplice to a years-long mess. That evening, Rasheeda broke her silence with a photo on Instagram. It wasn't of her face. It was the Frost Bistro, now under her sole ownership, the new sign gleaming in the night, Unbreakable ATL. The caption was just 3 words, "No more lies." Within minutes, the post had hundreds of thousands of likes and a flood of supportive comments. Somewhere across the city, Kirk sat in his car outside a closed strip mall, staring at his phone screen, the black display reflecting his own tired face. He opened Instagram, typed out a message, "Some losses are permanent," and posted it on a blank black background. The replies came fast and brutal. "You did this to yourself. Should have been a father from day one. You lost the only woman who ever held you down." But the last word of the night didn't come from him, or Rasheeda, or even Tasha K. It came from Miss Charlene, who went live from her living room, Bible on the table beside her. "The truth is a gift," she said, her voice steady. "Sometimes it comes late. Sometimes it comes with pain. But it always comes. And now that it's here, my daughter can walk away free. That's all I wanted." The screen faded to black. But the hashtags kept climbing. And somewhere, in the shadows of Atlanta's gossip circuit, someone else was already making a call to Tasha K., ready to tell her a new story. One with a different name on the birth certificate, but the same father.